Hello, everybody, and welcome to Systems Test, where we talk RPGs, we play RPGs, and we show you a good time. That was terrible. We'll come up with more. We're going to try it. Keep moving. Anyway, I'm Nick. I'm a systems admin, and today I'm joined by Jay. Say hello, Jay, as he pisses himself laughing.
Sorry, that just really cracked me up. Yeah,
Yeah,
hi.
it's nothing like a bit of preparation. And I'm joined by Pav. Say hello, Pav.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. And today we are going to be talking about Cyberpunk Red by R Talsorian Games, the role playing game of the dark future.
Just before we get into that, can I do a shout out for Nick? That I don't think the listeners will know this, but on Call of Cthulhu, the recordings, you'll have heard some beautiful piano playing. And actually, Nick learnt to play that piece and then recorded himself. So when you listen to it, that's actually Nick playing and not just purchased off the internet.
I had no idea you were that musical, Nicholas.
I can't believe you outed me, even though I put myself in credits in the
Actually,
description of the episodes. But there we go.
do I remember at primary school you played the violin?
I did play the violin and the piano to an extent too. Yeah, I did
Ah,
those. And now I've taken up piano again in my aged ways because I didn't get on with it as a youth.
just revealed
So
how long
yeah,
I've known you for as well.
many years,
It's been a
25,
minute.
30 years almost.
Let's
Will be
not
like
age
30
ourselves,
years.
guys.
Oh, you. Anyway, so we're talking. Speaking of dark futures, we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk Red today by R Talsorian Games. So, Cyberpunk Red is it's the cyberpunk genre of role-playing games. It was released in 2020 and is the fourth edition of the Cyberpunk franchise, which dates all the way back to the first one being released in 1988, and it's written by Mike Pondsmith. So yeah, it's an interesting system. Most people will probably know it from Cyberpunk 2077, the game that uses the same world and same characters, and the Cyberpunk Edgerunners anime that was on Netflix too. Yeah, so Cyberpunk is a very interesting one that I've had my eye on for a while, and again, I watched, the anime, played the game, and now we're going to be here talking about it and playing it. So, yeah, you what do we both all think about it? How excited are we to be chipping in and chroming out and flatlining some gonks?
I'd say I'm quite excited. I think before you suggested that we play Cyberpunk, honestly, I had no idea what it meant or what it was. I've not played the PlayStation game. I've not heard of it really before outside the PlayStation game. But then a quick Wikipedia search revealed that Cyberpunk is actually a genre. So I figured, you know what? I've actually probably watched a few things, or have been interested in watching a few things like quite dystopian, high tech, low life vibes. So, apparently The Matrix was a cyberpunk movie that I didn't know I'd seen. So I was like, okay, I can kind of slowly understand this world. And I got into a debate with someone about, is Robocop cyberpunk? Because apparently it's not, because it's not neon enough. But I feel
The
like
original,
it fits the
the
vibe.
original
Yeah, the
RoboCop.
original, set in
I'd
Detroit.
say it is.
I think
Yeah,
it
well,
is.
it's because it's all about that line
Dystopian
of
future.
it's a
What's
dystopian
human?
future.
What's machine? We've got
And
your
it's
back,
an
Pally.
Exactly.
evil corporation, trying to basically strip away someone's humanity, and it's definitely cyberpunk. It's
Yes, this is exactly what I thought, and I
good.
absolutely love RoboCop. I've had a RoboCop toy since I was a young child. I've recently found it in the garage, brought it back out. It's now my desk ornament. But I
There
cleaned
we
out the
go.
batteries, and it talks. So every now and again, I can press the button that says "Drugs are trouble" and other such famous catchphrases of RoboCop.
Yeah,
But
exactly. RoboCop.
yeah,
Yeah, and then he says
and
drugs are
then
trouble, and then shoots your kneecaps off.
exactly. I then decided to do a little bit more research. I did start to watch a few episodes of the Cyberpunk anime, which I thought was quite cool. I've never really watched anime before, but I enjoyed it. Definitely not one to watch with the little ones, but
Oh no.
no. So
Yeah,
my
not
time to
not kid
watch it is
friendly.
limited. Exactly. So I've got a small window of time when they go to bed and before they inevitably wake up again because they want some water or they want mummy. So I've not
No,
finished
fair.
it, but I'm keen to do it.
Nice. And Jay, how about yourself? How excited are you for this all?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I remember picking it up in a shop in LA like 4 years ago and being like, and I think I took a photo of it at the time and
You
sent it to you
did
and was
sent
like,
it to me,
we
yeah.
should play this sometime because it seems awesome. Um, I think the world's cool. I think it took me a little bit to get used to the like I don't want to say self mutilation because I think that's a bit strong, but like the sort of like replacing your arms for like cyber arms or like replacing bits of your body that might be perfectly functional and sort of. But I think I sort of like came round to the like. So I think that took me a little bit to get used to. Um,
Replacing or augmenting, it's all about how you look at it, you know.
yeah, right,
It's
exactly. It's like this
but
enhancement world, and I think you described it really well when you were like, "Oh, it's all about testing this line between like you and cyber, and where do you start and it end, and sort of like what does better and look like, and how does that feel?"
what I
Or is it
also
what's
think
the
that,
balance?
yeah, and that feeling you had is actually a very natural one, and it's one that people in this world would definitely grapple with, you know,
Yeah,
sacrificing your arm so you can lift more stuff, but also you're losing something that has been part of you from day one, and you're chipping away at pieces of yourself. And that's something the game explores as well. So, while if you don't mind, what I'll
yeah.
do is I'll give a brief overview of how it all works, but go on if you hadn't
No,
something
I
else
just had
to.
one other thing that I actually just really liked. There's some great stories in the rulebook that I think are really helpful for like painting like a scene and like describing it, which I really enjoyed. But one of the other things I really liked was the language, the concept of language. This is a very like everyone's intermingled, like forget borders, forget everything. Everyone speaks street slang, and then like everyone has like an authentic language that's like their historic like legacy language. And I just really liked the like strong presumption that that isn't just like that everyone doesn't just speak English.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
reminded me
nice.
a lot of like Serenity when like they're in that random bar and it's all in Chinese.
Mm,
I
mm.
kind of like it's like a little like I don't know, that's where my mind went. But yeah, no, I there are small bits that I do really I enjoyed.
Yeah, it does it. That's a really clever way, though, of making your common language for D&D, isn't it? When you're set in a real world status and everything's global as much as it can
Yeah,
be, that
100%.
now you've got this thing that everybody can speak and there's no language barriers, but you can still have conversations or understand stuff that might be specifically for your language. So the system is played by primarily with a D10, which is a 10-sided dice. And what you will look to do is roll your D10, add bonuses from your stats and your skills, which can be combined together to try and beat a difficulty value, similar to your difficulty checks in D&D. That's the main thing that you'll find us doing. And sometimes there will be opposed checks as well. So where a player will roll to try and beat another player or to beat an NPC or just which is a non-player character. There's a couple of other fun bits. So D6 is used quite a lot for, or six-sided dice used quite a lot for damage. But apart from that, that is the real whistle-stop tour of it. It's a very crunchy system, I would say. There's a lot of rules and a lot of stuff to learn, but it's one that is held in very high regard, especially the combat system, the Friday Night Firefight one. People talk a lot about and say it's very good. So with that, let's move on to the world. If unless you had something to say, Pav.
Well, I was just going to say, as per usual, I'm going in blind. So while we play along, we'll also get a feel of how good it is to pick up, or how easy it is, or how difficult it is. And we'll learn as we go along.
Yeah, nice. So the question that we kind of have when looking through the book as well is the world interesting to you at all? And I think for the great thing about the book itself, and a bit of a downside, is there is so much information in there. It's basically a history textbook of the world and Night City because this is an evolving story. So the cyberpunk world changes as the books progress. So Mike Pondsmith says in it in the beginning that they had the initial cyberpunk boom, then they had I think it was the corporate war was one of the first corporate wars, and until eventually you got the
There were
second war.
there were
There were
four
four, weren't
corporate
there? Jesus,
wars
see,
leading up
apologies to
to
Mike.
then the nuclear bomb being placed
Yes,
in Arasaka Tower in Night City
in 2023,
in
that
2023. This
ended
is
the war and
already
caused.
yeah, and that's already after the whole of the US sort of falls apart.
Mm.
That happens in the first or second corporate war. I think the second
Yes,
corporate
yeah.
war. Night City is an individual city state that is not part of the US, so the US does not come to their aid in
Because it's
after the
reclaimed
nuke.
land, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
reclaimed land, and they purposely didn't want to be part of it, and like all the states had seceded on the west coast.
Jay's got his
Sorry.
midterm on Night City history after this, so he's done good.
I read
done
this
good
book.
at studying. Yeah. And so this book though is set in what's called the Time of the Red, and it's 2045. So after the nuke, it created a load of dust in the sky and has basically ended all hostilities between, well, all overt hostilities between the corps, but it has also had further reaching ramifications to global supply lines and manufacturing and everything. And so it is a time of regrowth and building. So it's an interesting time to set it, because there are things out there, things available, but there is less new production or anything going on. So
And it's probably just worth adding for those people who've played Cyberpunk 2077. There isn't the net. The net has been taken down, and it is a very fragmented system with the Netwatch sort of looking over what's the remnants of it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the tech is like not as advanced, and sort of net running is a much more localized activity. And there's a few, it's more, yeah. Sorry.
No, that's exactly right. Like there's still the old net is something that comes up in 77 as well, and everything is much more, even compared to Cyberpunk 2020. So in the role-playing 2020 game, you could net run, basically sit in your chair and net run all over the world, sort of thing. Whereas this now looks to have addressed some of the, not issues, I would say, but maybe means of party cohesion by making net spaces much more localized. So they are basically, if anybody's familiar with the term, air gapped. Now every building has its own network, or every thing, so they're much more localized, which means you kind of have to be on site and under fire. So
Oh, that's
be fun.
interesting. I didn't realize that was a reaction to that.
I know it's because the
Or like an
nuke went off
evolution.
and ruined.
No, sure.
Yeah,
But like in
no,
game design terms.
Yes,
something just riffing off of that. One of the thoughts I had, and sorry if this is jumping ahead, but one of the thoughts I had when I was like looking through the characters to like and how they set up, it's fascinating because they are very each role is very like career based, and feels much, it felt very different from like Ronin, or like even from Cthulhu, and definitely very far away from like D&D, where like you are in all of those systems. It feels like you are Cthulhu to one side. It feels like the premise is that you are selecting a character from a list of adventurers, a list of people who are all geared towards basically having the same fundamental motivation, like in like at the highest level, right? Like, in D&D, the paladin, the cleric, the barbarian, they're all geared around doing like the premise is they're all adventurers at the end of the day. And same in Ronin, all the characters that we selected from were all adventurers. What's fascinating about this system is like, actually you look at them and these are all people that just exist in this world. And there's like very little reason inherently for them to ever feel like they need to be in a group or a party or like like
a crew.
Yeah, a crew, right? It's like why does the doctor need to like leave the house and like do anything other than their day job, kind of thing? I think was one of the interesting things I felt, but that was like this gap between the world, the characters, that felt very different from other systems in that like holistic sense.
Yeah, and it's different in that it allows quite overt progression in that your roles gain you more stuff as you become better at them, and you can switch careers in speech marks as well. So you can multi-class by taking a starting role in another, or a starting level in another role. So it means then your character can evolve their career story as they go too.
And
But I
also,
mean,
like the roles and the activities that the characters do feel much less in in real time focused, if that makes sense. When reading through their different like actions that they can do, it felt very downtime focused rather than
mm,
like, oh, I could see how this would help me in a fight. Or
mm.
like in a verbal encounter. It felt much more like, oh yeah, if I had a week like of down
There's a
in-game
few, yeah.
downtime.
There's a good mix actually. So the solo, if you look at the solos one, they have points they divvy up that give them different advantages. So you could say, I'm going to put my 4 points into reaction time so that I know I'll go first in initiative, or I'm going to put it into a couple of other bits. And the Netrunner, their whole interface level directly dictates how many actions they can take in a turn in the net. So there's a good mix between them.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, didn't mean
Yeah.
to overgeneralize.
No, not at all. I mean, we're talking characters. Do you want to talk character creation then now, and how how you found that as a process, the pair of you, because you've both made characters for our little scream sheet or one shot.
I found the character creation quite easy. You get given 3 options in the handbook. So basically, everything's done for you, or you have some limited control over rolling, or you do it completely yourself. I personally wanted a bit of control, but also wanted some guidance. So I went for the middle option. I think it's edge running. That's the option, not the complete or the street. The street rat's the basic one where they just do everything for you. So I wanted some control, which is quite nice. So I rolled for all my stats. However, I was given a kind of a window frame of, if you roll whatever number you roll on the D10, this is what your score is. So between 1 and 10 you roll, and your score will be limited. The stat that comes out between, like, say 4 and 7, say. So it's a smaller range than the actual dice roll, which I think was very useful in terms of creating a balanced character with good stats that will help you get through the game. So I went for a media based character, so I was given all those stats. So overall, I think I rolled pretty. My stats are quite good. Jay, your first reaction was that I rolled pretty well. However, I had to highlight that I had a little bit of help. There was guardrails in place, so I don't have a really terrible stat. But then you can't go over as well. So there's nothing really good versus bad. There's no extremes. So I found that quite useful. And then pulled up a good old Excel sheet and statted up all my skills, because you get 86 points and you're given guidelines on which skills you should be putting your points into. Again, very useful to help guide your character creation. And again, I think did it quite well. I had a look at the Street Rat version to give me a guide of what they think your character should be in, what stats and skills they should have, and I may have amended mine in certain things, like upped my stealth, upped my actual media skills, which I think their Street Rat, I can't remember what it's called, but they were
Yeah,
seemed
Street
quite low
Rat.
for
So
a person. Yeah, Street Rat.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm an edge runner based
and then
character. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and
Yeah, and
then the
that's
only thing
a
I found, I'll say, what I found tricky then was at the very end, which was having what gear do I select, and then what additional cyberware do I want. It We went back and forth quite a bit, and then I was like, I could spend my €500 bucks that I have left over to get an audio suite, but then I've got nothing else left. But it turns out, as a media, I get given that anyway, so I can start with that. So I was like, okay, great. You know what? I'm going to put a few other things in then that I can add to that. So in the end, we got there. It was a little complicated though, towards the end, at least.
yeah. It has those 3 levels of complexity, doesn't it? With the Street Rat, Edge Runner, and then custom. And I do think it does a good job of holding your hand where you need to, but the book does not make it easy at times, from what I saw as well. And Jay, would you like to Tell
Yeah.
us about
And so I
how
think
you found it.
it's so. Firstly, I did do this on hard mode because I was like, I'm going to do the custom package because like I am a mini control freak, and if you let me like build my perfect character, like is what I want to do. That's part of what I love about playing like these kinds of systems is like who is the character that I want to be. Like and I think similar to Cthulhu, the skills bit felt very rewarding. It felt very like you could pick the exact skills you want. You could then have, which is cool, right? Because then you can build any type of character you want. And I think that's the other interesting relationship that's different here compared to other systems is that the character that you choose has no bearing on what skills you can pick and what your like armor you can wear and like what you can carry or like what you can do. There's like basically if you want to be like a samurai style like sword wielding like singer, you can do that. Or if you want to be like a heavy flak jacket, like I'm wearing heavy armor, like Netrunner, you can also do that, which I think is quite interesting. Like as like it took me a bit of like, oh, I'm so used to characters predetermining what gear I can then have that I thought that was an interesting like that there is no relationship there.
There's a couple. Actually, it's not even character related. Gear restrictions are stat related most of the time. I think if you have a low body, you can't
Interesting.
access certain things. But apart from that, yeah, you can have anything. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've not got the skills to use the rocket launcher, then
Yes.
that's on you. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I thought that was the first hurdle. I then thought it was the skill. The skills were great. Like, it felt very rewarding, similar to Cthulhu, of like, oh, I can really see what I'm investing in. It feels like a big difference. You have 6 extra points in something when you're rolling a d10 is much smaller range than like compared to having the d20 in D&D. Um, I thought that the book did make it complicated. Like, and I know that I did it on hard mode because I was like, I want to control every element of this, but the amount of page flicking between I don't understand why they didn't just say, if you want to pick this character, here's everything in one section for that character. Like, here's your gear, here's your armor, here's your cyberware, if you're like going for the pre-built package. But it is all spread across a lot of pages. I thank God I have a PDF version and I've like got so many bookmarks because I had to do so much flicking between different pages, and thank God it's hyperlinked and all those hyperlinks
yeah,
work.
that is good about
But
it. I used the search function a lot. Control F
yes,
was my friend
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in this.
But if I'd had a hard copy version of this book, I think I would have like found it much more frustrating. And then I think like, and even as an example, like there's a lot of pages that are duplicated. So like there's a whole front section of cyberware, and then there's a whole back section of the night market, which is like almost identical but a bit more detailed. So you see up front, it's like, oh, you can buy an agent. Well, what does an agent do? And there's like one line of description, and then in the back there's like, actually this is a bad example because actually there's quite a bit of description for agent, but some of them have like one line of what they do, and I'm like, I don't really understand what this is. And then if you look in the back, there's like the whole night market section, which has the same price but like loads more detail on what it is. So I thought that was like particularly confusing. But I think we got there in the end, and lots of different bits of information in different places. Like you get a special fashion wear budget if you've done a complete package that's like hidden away on a page, and yeah, stuff like that. But no, I eventually ended up with a character that I feel very happy about, that I've like had complete control over. It feels very rewarding. And I think also like it feels rewarding essentially starting at level 4. I feel like I've got a character that's like ready for a one shot. Whereas I feel like in sort of slower progression systems, I could be like, great, I've got a level 1 character that like can't really do much. So no, I'm excited. The whole system left me like excited to play.
Good. No, that's good to hear. I know we all text quite a lot on the character building thing with just back and forth being like, what's this? How does that work? Blah, blah, blah. And it meant there was quite a lot of flicking through the book.
Definitely
Yeah,
the
there's repetition is the
cyberware. Yeah,
yeah.
and the cyberware empathy, humanity loss feeding back to empathy is a really interesting. So like you take on cyberware, it reduces your humanity loss. Sorry, first you pick a empathy stat. The empathy stat dictates what your humanity is. You then pick cyberware that then reduces your humanity, which then reduces your empathy stat. And it's interesting because I've never come across a system yet where my core stat is reduced in character creation, if that makes sense. And so I wasn't expecting it. And so I think and there's like one sentence of it and it isn't repeated. I think that's like a kind of rule that I would love to see repeated, to be like, you like, remember when you're taking humanity loss, if your score goes below X, reduce your empathy score accordingly. But it was like hidden away in one place, and I was like, wait, why is that going down?
That's kind of what you're talking about earlier, where adding cyberware, where does the human end and the cyborg begin? So it makes sense that the more you take on, the less humanity, the less EMP you have.
And I think it's given us the description that actually you just aren't able to connect with people. And so you drift into cyber psychosis. So as your humanity drops lower, you can, if you get to around the low tens, your character will start RPing erratically, and eventually, if it reaches zero, you lose control of the character, and they completely undergo cyber psychosis. And there's a fun. So then the GM gets to take control of them and have them act in a wacky way.
It's like Call of Cthulhu insanity.
Yeah, exactly. And on the similar vein to that, this game explores the therapy as a tool to recover your humanity and keep yourself connected and in touch. And so there's a whole section on, going to therapy for your characters so that they can still function in a world as they are selling bits of themselves away, which I think is a really interesting mechanic to have. And it's one that has been present in the series for a while, I believe. I think there's therapy aspects in 2020 as well.
The other final bit on character creation there's a lot of terminology in this book that is not quite differentiated enough for my liking. So for instance, I chose the medtech role. The role is called medtech. In it, there is a subspecialism called medical tech, of which there are two, and then there's a third option, which is surgeon. You take levels, you invest sub-levels either in your surgery or one of the two medical tech levels. So although I have 4 med tech levels, I have 1 medical tech level and 3 surgery levels because of and I'm like, you could have just come up with a different name. And I think there's a few bits in the book where there's a lot of wording that's different mechanics, but very similar words that I would have just loved to have a slightly more differentiated thing. So as someone new to this, I'm like, oh no, I get that these are different things, rather than wait, is that the same thing? And having to constantly reread sections to be like, have they chosen to use a different word on purpose, or is this an abbreviation?
I think the one that sticks out for me for that is the skill and base skill one. That one is a bit of a interesting one, and yeah, there are a couple instances of it, but it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together and plays out, because it is quite a daunting book to try and jump into. But I'm excited to see what it will look like.
Just on my hours spent reading, to add to the ongoing thing, I think I spent about 8 hours reading this book, and I think I've done about 85% of it. If anyone plans to read the book cover to cover, my advice, for what it's worth, is I went and read all of the story sections back to back, and then did the mechanics back to back, and did the character creation back to back. For me, that was a more straightforward way to approach it. But it's a very dense book.
Yeah, it's 500 odd pages, something like that. Let me see.
Yeah, and a lot of it.
456, including the thing. Yeah.
And question: is there a separate GM manual, or is all of your stuff
it's all just one book to go through. There is a lot of extra stuff. So if you wanted to play this game with your friends, you just need this one book, and you can share it around to try and what's it called? Build characters and just play it. I think you could all do it physically. It's got a hell of a lot of information. It's a lot of bang for its buck, which is a pro and a con in that it's a lot of time investment and effort investment to get yourself up to scratch with the system. So it is a good one. The other thing actually that they do, R Talsorian Games, is they release a hell of a lot of free content as well. And if you go onto their website, they have DLCs, and then they release stuff for April Fools. They do stuff for Christmas and maybe other holidays too. But that may not even be true. I just know there's a hell of a lot of stuff on there for them. So there's free missions. There's loads more tech and cyberware in some stuff too. And we're using the base book to build characters and everything. If we were to do more, we might explore using some of the. I think it's called Black Chrome is the extra DLC as they call it. But there's a lot of stuff and a lot of scream sheets, which are the scenarios out there too. There's official ones and fan made ones, and I didn't see too much paid for content outside. I didn't look much, to be fair, because there was so much stuff that they provided there. But I'm sure there are additional paid for books out there if you wanted some more official stuff too.
And Nick, how did you find it when you were looking at the rule book and the scenario from a GM perspective? Like, do you feel like the rules are straightforward? How confident do you feel going in with the amount of prep you've done? And how many hours prep have you done?
A lot. Well, to be fair, a lot in getting myself up to snuff with it. We'll see. I'm sure everything will fly out of my head the second we first need to do something. But I got a GM screen as well, which I've printed out in front of me, which is super useful and has a lot of really good information on there. And the fundamental thing about it is it's try and beat checks. It's roll dice to beat checks. There's going to be little foibles and little intricate rules in there. The auto fire or suppressing fire and stuff like that is one that is a bit interesting to take note of.
You're going to be happy that we've all got handguns and low rate of fire, guns.
I think, well, that's it. Whenever I DM, I don't ever really feel prepared. I do as much as I can, and then we see what happens. So I'm sure I'll be a bit rusty.
If you were advising someone that how much prep they need to do to GM their first ever session of Cyberpunk, are you comparing it to other systems? Do you think this is like a medium lift, like a lot of work to do to get up to speed on the rules? Or do you think like with a scream sheet, some street rats, like character sheets and like the GM screen, do you think you could like get through a session? Or do you think it'd be a bit scratchy?
I think you could. There'd always be a bit scratchy. Whenever you try something new, there's always going to be road bumps, aren't there? I don't know, if I'm honest. We'll see how we go.
We'll pick it up in the debrief.
Exactly. You can look back on this after I'll be like, yeah, it'll be amazing. But yeah, we will see. I can't believe you would drop such a big question on me. I thought I was the one asking all the questions here.
To turn the tables on you once.
I think there are lots of scenarios, and this one I tried to find one of an introductory one, as it were. So we will see one that we could do in a relatively short time, shall we say?
Sounds good.
Does anyone have any other points, any other mechanics, or anything they want to talk about before we jump into it?
I think from what you've all described, it sounds very scary, and I wish I had read the book now. In more detail.
You'll be fine.
Aside from character creation.
No, but it's a good excuse then. We can all be like, nobody knows how. And exactly, I don't know how it works, and I've read the book, so you'll be fine, in good standing.
Yeah, it took me about a week to just get the character creation done, just reading that part. Just to get my head around it, have a think about what you want to do, because there's so many different options going through there, from the solo corporation, medtech as you mentioned, and then running through all those sub levels as well. So yeah, it's all fun and games, right? Until you have to knuckle down your character.
The only thing after, so I like made my character as I was reading through the whole book and like had something in mind that I really wanted to stick with, so I stuck with it. But having got to the end and when I was reading like how the fighting actions works, I was like, oh, actually, like there's a really solid build here around grappling, choking, and throwing people to the ground, because to get up is a full action. And I was like, wow, from like an action economy perspective, sorry, not to like totally min-max this, but like from an action economy perspective, actually, there'd be a really cool, like, I could see a really cool build for like getting people to the ground and then forcing them to use their whole turn just to get up. That was
Well,
something
human
that, like,
shield as well is a mechanic as well in this.
Yeah,
So they're
the
grabbing
human-
somebody and using them as a shield. I think
Yeah.
you've almost instantly stumbled onto what people have described as one of the busted builds is martial arts and high body with like Borgware in there.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I can see that.
I'll just throw
I
a
can
lot
see
of guns at you. You can only throw one person to the floor a turn, and I'll just shoot you while you're doing it. So
that. This is true.
yeah, nice. I think that pretty much about covers our introduction to Cyberpunk Red.
Yeah, let's
Thank
get
you,
going.
everybody, for listening. Yeah, we're going to jump into our scenario or our scream sheet straight after this. Yeah, thank you very much for listening. Join us in the next episode. But if you want some more stuff in the meantime, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we post about what we are playing and what we're getting up to, any other fun stuff that might be occurring in the meantime. You've found us through whatever listening medium you have, but we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, which includes Audible, I believe now, and YouTube as well. So hit us up on any one that you fancy.
No excuses.
With that, Systems Test signing out. If you want to know more about the podcast, follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky, searching Systems Test.